It's time to take off your clothes, enjoy clothes-free living, and join us for Naked, Nudists, and Naturists.
Welcome to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, the show that celebrates clothes-free living for all. I'm your host, Frank Stone.
And I'm your correspondent, Lisa Monroe, and I'll be reporting on all things within the naturist community. So it's time to get naked and join us.
And enjoy clothes-free living on Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. Well, greetings and welcome into Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 31 today. How about that? This is our 31st week, and it's our 31st episode. When we first started out on July 1st of 2023, we told you brand new show every Saturday morning, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. We had a few people out there who said, well, you can't keep up that pace. My answer then and now is, well, yes, we can. And here we are, 31st week, 31st episode. I've been talking about taking a week off now since before Thanksgiving. Yet here we are on January 27th. We still haven't taken a week off. We will at some point. And when we do, by the way, it won't be a true week off. We won't just leave you high and dry. We will have bonus episodes, maybe the best of is a better way to say it. We'll have little snippets of different interviews that we've done so far. And so even if we're gone for a week, we won't really be gone for a week. How's that sound? Now, having said that, we also have no plans to take a week off. I'm not setting you up to let you know, oh, by the way, we're going to be gone this week or that week. No, we have a full schedule. Guests book well into late summer as of this moment. So we have no plans as of this moment to take any weeks off. Now, the only issue that could arise, and I've mentioned this briefly before, is I have a relative who's much older, lives about 1,000 miles away, and at some point last year, before we started the show, I got a call, hey, you better get here. Things are not looking too good, and so ended up taking a couple of weeks off and handling that medical situation. And that could be a whole series of shows, maybe another weekly podcast in and of itself, how to navigate the medical profession, the hospital situation. Those of you who work in hospitals know that they are very busy places. And I didn't realize how busy they were until I got involved. It's like, oh, boy, we took care of business. Let's just put it that way. So everything turned out fine, and if another such call comes in, then I would have to depart for a week or two or three or whatever, and that is when we would play the best of. But as of this moment, no, we have no plans to take any time off. 31st week, 31st episode, and we really look forward to this time together with you. It's something special for us. We know it's special for you. We do not announce numbers on this show as to how many listeners are out there. That's just one of those things that we just don't do, and there are a lot of reasons, but rest assured, as you might have guessed, the numbers are huge. They've skyrocketed almost out of control, if there is such a thing, and we appreciate that. It's because you listen to us. That's why we have so many listeners. It's pretty much 1 + 1 = 2 every single day of the week. And we do look forward to this time together. We know how much this show means to you and how much it means to us to be able to produce it, but also how much it means to us when you give us feedback, whether you hit us up by email, still a little queasy on that one, or by direct message on Twitter. And we enjoy hearing from you. So please write early and often on a particular topic, a particular show. Maybe you have a particular idea, which I want to talk to you about in just a couple of moments, but if you just want to say hello, we encourage you to do so. We enjoyed the feedback. We love the interaction with you, the listener, so please continue to do so. Now, before I get to that idea, let me tell you what's coming up on today's show. We have a gentleman from New Zealand. He runs a naturist blog. It is called A Comfort of Naturists. We've talked about him before on the show, and he goes by the name BOPBADGER, and he'll explain why he chose that name as his name for the blog. He will go by the name of Steve on this show. That is his real first name. We just can't give his last name because he's in the corporate world and needs to keep the naturism thing as a side deal and not let the people at work know, which a lot of people deal with. We deal with that all of the time. And of course, until naturism becomes accepted by everybody, as it is in some places in the world, well, I guess we'll always be dealing with that, at least for now. So part one of my interview today with Steve from New Zealand, who runs the website, the blog, A Comfort of Naturists. And you can look that up while you're listening to the show. The only thing we ask is that you continue to listen while you're looking him up. we don't want you to leave us. We have a lot to cover today, but BOPBADGER, part one on today's show and part two on next week's show, which will be episode 32. We, of course, will have the terrific, the wonderful, the great Lisa Monroe in just a few minutes. In fact, she's in the studio right now. Doesn't have her microphone on, doesn't have her headphones on, but we'll pull her in about 5 or 6 minutes or so and get her take on a couple of issues going on in the world of naturism and as they pertain to the studio, in fact, in a couple of cases. Now, what I wanted to ask you today on this show is the content of this show. Is this exactly what you want? Do you want more of it? Would you like to see us expand into other areas? We do this show for you. Yes, we do it for us. We love every second of it. We work really hard, lots of hours, but we enjoy it. It's a labor of love. But I'm all about pleasing the listener, pleasing the client, pleasing the customer, whatever you want to call it. If it doesn't work for you, you won't be listening, obviously. So we want to make sure that it does work for you. So is there anything else that you would like us to cover? And I'm bringing this up now because, well, first of all, the name of the show is Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. We never claim to be a 100% naturism show, although that's basically what we have turned into, and that's fine. We enjoy that, clothes-free living for all the right reasons. I even forgot to mention at the beginning, the pool is ready, the hot tub is fired up. We have hamburgers on the grill, a cooler stocked with very cold drinks ready for you, some fruit and vegetables off to the left. That's the way to live life. Clothes-free, enjoying life, the wind, the sun on your skin, and if you're at the beach, the sand on your skin, which you can easily wash off and not have to worry about when you're clothes-free. Wearing a suit brings all kinds of issues, or costumes, as some people call them. But we've been getting some emails about a topic called CFNM, which stands for Clothed Female, Naked Male, or Nude Male, however they say that. That is not true naturism at all. Naturism is, we're in this together. We are all clothes-free. We show up, all of our clothes come off. Everybody is nude, enjoying life the way it should be. If you have clothed females and naked males, obviously half the population is naked, half the population is clothed, so it's not social naturism. But is it a topic worth exploring? If so, let us know. Send us a direct message on Twitter. You can email us at nakedforevermore@gmail.com. You can respond on Spotify. You can respond on our website, which is nakednudists.com. And let us know, should we look at exploring some other options that involve nakedness, being nude, being a naturist? Should we look at some of those? What about nudity in film? What about nudity on the Broadway stage? Lots of that going on out there. We've talked very little about that. Should we? Should we explore that? Or should we basically stick to, hey, Frank, naturism to the max? We are here for you. We can do whatever you want us to do. So far, this has worked out really well. Naturism to the max. People enjoy this show. And as I mentioned, the listeners' numbers are off the charts. There are 195 countries in the world, at least as the last report I saw. I won't tell you how many we are in because it would seem like bragging, and we don't do that, but we're in a lot of countries. Let me just put it that way. We are heard around the world. So if you're a guest on this show, you are heard around the world. And not just by a few people here or a few people there, but by tons of people in a whole bunch of countries. So we're very grateful for that. But definitely take a moment, if you don't mind, to let us know what you would like us to do. We can continue with naturism. It's no problem at all. We enjoy that, clothes-free living for all the right reasons. But if you want some other topics, let us know, and we will look at exploring them. So before I bring Lisa in, she's now getting her headphones on. I also want to just remind you, we give you a brand new show every Saturday morning, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time on Spotify. From there, it branches out to every podcast platform under the sun. But for sure, you can find us 6 a.m. Eastern Time on Spotify. It goes there first, gets to the other places later. Might be a minute later, might be a few hours later. We're not in control of that. But we're also giving you a YouTube preview every Wednesday. So 3 days ago, we put a preview on YouTube for this show. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, give you a little taste. That way you don't have to wait a whole week for new content. You only have to wait a few days. So today is Saturday. Next Wednesday will be the preview for episode 32. And then a week from today, the full episode 32. It's just how we do things around here. We are looking at expanding our YouTube presence. But more on that when we have some more details. Well, you are listening to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 31. We absolutely love having you with us. We enjoy this time together, so thank you for being with us. And as you can tell by the music, that is sneaking in on us. It is time for the great, the terrific, the one and only Lisa Monroe. And here she is, the one and only, the 100% clothes-free and 100% smiling and dancing, the terrific Lisa Monroe. Good morning, Lisa. How are you today?
I'm doing really well, Frank. How about yourself this wonderfully kind of overcast morning?
Not bad. I even hate to say this next thing because it's some people won't take it the right way, but this time of year where we live is a little bit chilly. And the reason I hesitate to say that, you want to talk about chilly, you go to northern United States, Canada, England, talk to a guy in the Netherlands the other day. They're several degrees below chilly. So I really can't complain. It does hinder naked time outside. Can't be out there all day because it's just a little bit cold for that. Other than that, life is great. How about you?
I don't think people understand that 60 is our 20.
That's right. That's right.
And so when you get so used to being warm that if it gets, well, I've always said if it gets under 80, I freeze to death. So if it gets to 60, I'm bundled up like I'm in,
Yeah.
Alaska somewhere. So yeah, this is a crazy time of year for us to say, ooh, January or July is better than January. People
Yeah.
don't understand that.
No. Well, I grew up in a very cold climate. At least during the winter, it was very cold. 0 degrees was normal. 10 was, halfway normal. And I flew out to this one place. Long story short, I won't get into the details, but I wanted to work out in the morning. And so I was walking or drove to this gym. It was 20 degrees outside Fahrenheit. And I just drove there in a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. And I got out of the car, t-shirt, pair of shorts, walking to the gym. And some woman was getting out of her car. And she said, "Sir, are you crazy? It's 20 degrees." And I said, "Well, I'm from, the northern climate. This is tennis weather for us." And she, started laughing. And really, it was no big deal. Well, that was 20 degrees some years ago. Now, 60, 65, maybe 65 and below, if I walk my dogs at night, I have a coat on, as in a winter coat. That's just, it seems silly to some people. So I can't complain. Again, 60, 65, oh, he has a coat. And other people are dealing with 0 and 10. So can't complain, not complaining, just putting it out there. How about you?
Absolutely. I know we've always said that you can tell the natives from the tourists in the winter when it's like 70 or
Yeah,
65 to 70. The tourists are in shorts, they're on the beach, they're having a wonderful time. They think this is wonderful weather. And we are dressed in pants, boots, sweaters, and
yeah,
scarves, and sometimes gloves. I've had put gloves on before in this warm part of Florida.
yeah.
So it's all perspective, and we're not trying to rub it in. It's just that, hey, this is what we live with. Sorry, people.
Yeah, yeah. So we're not complaining now. We've gotten a number of emails on this end in Twitter direct messages. Are we really naked in the studio? Because we don't post photos of us, recording or working around here. It's just not what we do. Well, the answer is yeah. We don't say things that aren't true around here. I mean, coming from a woman's perspective, maybe they'll believe you a little more, especially other women. Are we clothes free or are we not?
We're always clothes free. I mean, this is what we're here for. And this is one of those places where we feel comfortable is in the studio with the other people who are here who understand and enjoy this lifestyle. So, yes, we are naked as little jaybirds, as they say.
Yeah. We've had a few people say, well, isn't that kind of like a sexual atmosphere? And it's, 100% no. And probably it would be more of a sexually charged atmosphere if people were dressed, because then certain body parts would be highlighted or enhanced. And, you work in corporate America, and it's like, whoa, that lady down there looks pretty hot in that dress, or that guy looks like $1 million in the suit. You're consciously thinking that. But here it's just, oh, hi, let's get to work. And we just work and enjoy life.
Absolutely. And one thing that I've found over these years now is that once we become comfortable with each other's bodies, the other things about people are what attract us. We're
Hmm.
not having to go, "Ooh, I want to see that." We're literally saying, "Hey, I like your brain or I like your sense of humor or something along those lines." Because what we are wearing becomes not important to
Right.
those choices. So I think we become friends quicker because we don't have to worry about, oh my god, she's wearing that designer piece of trash again. It
Yeah.
doesn't look good on her, but she wears it because it's designer.
Yeah.
So you don't make those kind of value judgments. You just look at who people are.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. And until you try it, you don't realize that, yeah, that's exactly how it works. It sounds a little odd to somebody who's never tried naturism. Like, okay, I'm going to go there, take all my clothes off. There'll be 10 other people, their clothes off, and it will be normal and not sexually charged. And the answer is yes, absolutely. You can get sexually charged at the grocery store, with a pair of tight jeans or
Hmm.
a low cut dress on a woman walking down aisle three. Well, there's your sexual charging stuff.
Hmm.
But clothes free for all the right reasons, no. We just enjoy each other for who we are and what we are, not what we have or what we have on, right?
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the joys of this. It's what schools did for with uniforms. They thought they were
Yeah.
bringing that same kind of facet into their lives. No difference between any student. Yet it was the kid with the $200 shoes and the kid with the old hand-me-down tennis shoes that were driving these same exact problems. So naked is good. It's good for a lot of reasons, and sometimes I think it pulls away every barrier we have to finding out who people are and not what they are.
Yeah. 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 That's very well stated.
Another thing, Frank, I don't think
Yeah.
that people think no, we're naked in the studio, but I'm not always here when you're doing interviews, and so although I know you're naked in the studio, you do or all of your interviews um, naked, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I guess I should be upfront, and I'll take the blame for this. I kick everybody out when I do interviews, just because I get so focused on what I'm doing. I don't want a distraction with a door closing or a door squeaking open or footsteps down the hallway. It says, "Okay, everybody's got to go. We have an interview on this day at this time." And so nobody is here. So no offense to you. I would like to have you here, but it just I got to focus, and the slightest little thing can throw me off. So my apologies to you. Is that okay?
Oh, you no need to apologize, because that's just the best way that you work, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, as far as clothes free, yeah, we live clothes free, we work clothes free, so the interviews are clothes free. However, I always have been wired this way, probably because of my parents instilling it in me, always concerned and aware of the feelings and thoughts of others. And so before an interview, Jennifer always emails the upcoming guest, oh, by the way, Frank does everything clothes free around here. And that should not be a surprise to anybody because we've said it and we've put it out there. And he conducts interviews clothes free. Is that okay with you? And the general statement, I don't have her stock email here, but it says, if you're okay with that, great. If not, you can both wear clothes. We just want it to work for the guest. We want the guest to be comfortable, and if speaking to me with clothes off is an issue, no problem here. I will put clothes on, and clothes to me for an interview means, corporate America, and that means a suit and tie. I won't have the coat on, but I'll have a dress shirt and a tie, and that's fine. I've conducted a million interviews like that with business people, medical professionals, and so on. And so we give people that option. But of course, we're a naturist show. and we interview naturists. So just about everybody says basically, well, yeah, of course. Is there any other way? Now, we've had a couple. In fact, this one guest, I will not mention who this is. I won't even say if it's a man or a woman, said, no, absolutely must have clothes on. I'm not going to be naked with Frank for the interview, and please tell him to have clothes on too. So I thought, well, okay, now this person is out there. If I mention the person, most people would know who it is, nude all of the time and promotes that and does a very good job of it. I thought, well, that's a little bit odd, but okay, that's, we're not going to discuss it or argue. The person is more comfortable with clothes on. That's what we'll do. Showed up in my suit, and this person showed up, dressed as well. And we talked for a few moments before the interview began. Just here's what I'm thinking. Anything you want me to cover, and so on. And after a few minutes, this person said, "You know what? Let's get naked and do the interview right." So I think that person just, okay, I don't know Frank. I've never talked to him, never met him. I want to make sure he's a legitimate character here and not some clown on the internet. And after a few minutes, she realized, yeah, we just do what we do and clothes for a living for all the right reasons. And so the clothes came off. I said, in fact, I said to her, should we have the strip tease music in the background just to enhance the experience? Just joking around. And we had a great time after that and a terrific interview. So, people have different thoughts coming in. A person might say, I'm a naturist. I love being naked, but ooh, I don't know you. So I'm going to get to know you first. Now, I'm not wired that way. It's if you're a naturist, I'm a naturist, clothes come off and we enjoy life. But we respect the values and opinions of others. So that's basically how that shakes down. Otherwise, it's clothes free. Yeah.
Absolutely, people can be wary, and that's okay for them to be wary when they don't know someone. There is also a different feel when you are doing these interviews naked and talking about this lifestyle because we live this, as much as we possibly can. So this is just a natural part of it to talk to each other this way. But people are people, so and you're
Yeah.
right to actually, say, "Hey, what do you want?" and follow through and honor their request.
We actually had one woman, I won't identify her, but, Jennifer put out the email, clothes free living for all the right reasons. Frank does, clothes free interviews. And by clothes free, for me, it's basically the chest on up. It's not as though, we're just having a wild party here. It's just we're clothes free doing our work. And this lady said, and by the way, everything she does in her life is naked. She runs a naked business. She lives clothes free. She puts it on the internet all of the time. This is not somebody in the weeds. And she said, that just sounds weird. I'm going to cancel the interview. So, wait, what?
Mhm.
You promote yourself as a naturist, you run a naturist business, and we gave you the option, clothes or clothes free. You have the choice. And her choice was, I don't want choice A or B. Choice C is, I'm out of here. And that was it. Not going to hear from her again. We're not going to reach out again. That was a little bit odd. What's your take on that as a woman?
I would almost have to wonder why she was doing the naked business
Yeah.
because to me it sounds like she's using the naked part to be promote the business to have more clients come and say, "Ooh, I want this naked so and so," whatever the
Yeah.
person does, and that just does not ring true as a true naturist to me. People can be shy, but you know what? Look at them all overall, and when they tell you, "Oh, I'm so shy," 90% of the time they're not, and they're trying to promote that persona. So, kind of strange to me too.
Yeah. Well, to each his or her own. We do what we do here, but we also give people that option. We'll be clothes free. I mean, we'll be clothes free. We'll also have clothes on for the interview. We just want people to be comfortable. Maybe if the interviewee is not comfortable, it might not be a great interview. So let's just, however you're most comfortable, let's go. And that's it. And so far, that's worked out pretty well. I also wanted to get into this email. We got an email from a gentleman, first name Daniel, and I will read about half of it and then have you read the other half. We'll talk about it for a moment. It says, "Hello, Lisa and Frank!" Exclamation point. Woo! Exclamation point. I'm trying to catch up with you. I only learned about your podcast recently and have so far made it as far as October 21. And that is an issue with people discovering us now. We put out a brand new show every Saturday since July 1st of 23. This is obviously episode 31. So if you're just discovering it today, it's like, whoa, I have 31 episodes and each one is an hour long. So we understand that. But he goes on to say, I wanted to say thank you for this episode, particularly and your discussion about Donna Price's post on barriers to nudism. I can relate. First of all, as a Canadian, there are only about 45 days per year warm enough to be naked outside, except for a few crazies who like to do naked snow angels. The rest of the year, I have to debate whether it is ethically and economically responsible to crank the heat to make the house warm enough to be undressed. Distance to nudist events? I hear you there too. In my work, I have had to move all over the country, and seldom have I lived anywhere near a nudist group or camp. And you take it from there?
But most of all, I want to thank you for saying that sometimes the nudist groups themselves are the barrier. The one time I actually lived in a city where was a nudist group, my beloved and I were so excited to join a group of like-minded folks. It was clear from the start that despite their worries about their membership numbers going down and their ages going up, they didn't want anyone new, simply because they had all been together for years and we were unknowns. This is a serious issue that naturist groups will have to address if they want to share the benefits and the joys of a naked lifestyle. Thank you for your show. Maybe someday I'll be listening to new episodes as they come out. He's going to have to catch up
Uh,
fast for
yeah,
that.
yeah, definitely. So now he sent this on December 11th, and here we are at the end of January. So hopefully he's caught up. I haven't checked in with him, but I will soon. But what are your thoughts on that? I've seen that a lot too, not just in naturist groups, but people with clothes on. They form a group, maybe a Saturday night men's poker night. Same four guys show up, and a fifth guy says, "Hey, can I get in?" And no, no, not really, because we know each other. We know all the jokes and the tricks and the inside, whatever. And so sometimes groups do become closed, not necessarily intentionally. It's just we know who we are, we do what we do, and yeah, we don't really have time or space for you. But as he mentioned, that hurts naturism, especially clubs and resorts, right?
It really does. And humans are somewhat clannish as things, kind of developed on this planet. The people were in groups of people and they didn't interact very much. And even my Scottish heritage is very clannish because you belong to the Clan Campbell, you belong to the Clan Stewart, and maybe sometimes you talk, maybe you didn't. So it's really sad because this is what happens. These cliques form. I don't think that they're always intentional, but sometimes they are. But it, it angers me sometimes that people aren't willing to bring new people in, and this is exactly what's happening to these nudist resorts.
Yeah,
Exactly what's happening. And if you can't walk there and feel comfortable, where are you going to go as a naturist? If you're
yeah,
not going to feel welcome, if you're not going to feel invited into whatever little group is talking, if we want to expand this community, we have to embrace everyone.
yeah. And I know it's difficult. And, I went to college about 283 years ago. And I had a very good friend back then. We've kept in touch. We've just kind of not been together a lot over the years. Our lives took separate paths, but we still remain friends. And I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, we got together by phone. Said, why don't we get together for lunch? We haven't seen each other for a while. Let's catch up on old times and just talk about it. And so I got there, and another guy was there. Another guy with whom we had both gone to school and both knew, but I wasn't expecting the third guy. I thought it was just the two of us. And so I was a little put out, like, hey, wait a minute, it's supposed to be our time together, just the two of us. What's this third wheel doing here? Not that he's a bad guy or I minded. It was just my expectation was just be the two of us. So I was a little ticked. I didn't say anything, but I did later. It's like, if it's just going to be the two of us, let me know. If you're going to bring other people, let me know that too. So I can understand the mindset, but as Daniel pointed out, you start doing that with resorts and clubs and in the naturism community, you're going to close people out, and then they won't try it, and then they won't be involved, and then everybody loses at that point, right?
They certainly do. And in your case, that was an agreed to two people, and that was a surprise. But if you're
Yeah,
running a nudist resort and you're say here to join us, you pay the X amount of dollars, people need to expect new people are coming in. So, you have to embrace that or, you're not going to have that place to go to. in 5 or 10 years when you're,
Yeah.
in your 80s and you want a place to go play, bridge or whatever, there's no place to go.
That's right. Now, having said that, there are a lot of clubs out there, and we won't mention them now only because I don't want to miss somebody, but they are very welcoming. They look for new people. There's one club in Oklahoma. Uh, if you're a first time visitor, I think you get a wristband or something, and it identifies you as a first time visitor. And there are people who look for those wristbands just so they can go over and say, "Hey, welcome to the club. Glad you're here. What can we do for you?" So there is a lot of that too. I just wish in Daniel's case he would have been able to experience that, but sounds like he has not. And
It
we'll
doesn't. And in
see.
fact, I was thinking about that particular club when we
Yeah,
were discussing this, because they do
yeah,
seem to be very welcoming.
yeah,
But again, it could be the one club that he went to, and it could have been a bad day. Who knows?
yeah, yeah,
So, just give these organizations a try. If you feel like you're not being, welcome enough, go talk to the owner and say, hey, what's going on here?
yeah,
Just,
yeah.
meet it head on. If it's important enough to you to want to be part, then, figure out how you can be.
Yeah, yeah, that's good advice for all. Well, Lisa, we need to head for the hills today, and it's always great to see you. Always great to talk to you. Yes, we are closed free all of the time in the studio. The terrific Lisa Monroe, the one and only, the smiling and dancing. You have a great closed free week. We'll see you next time.
Absolutely. And you too.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
The terrific Lisa Monroe always brings sunshine and joy to the studio when she comes in for these segments. And I suppose that's another thing we ought to put out there, close free office environment, close free studio. And it's the happiest place I've ever worked in my life. I worked in corporate America, which meant a full suit, pants, socks, suspenders, belt, dress shirt, tie. Looked like $1,000,000. Couldn't wait to get home and get all that stuff off. And not necessarily the friendliest people with whom you would ever work, people who were doing things they shouldn't be doing and just doing bad things to people. It doesn't happen here. It doesn't happen in the naturist community because, again, it goes back to what we've said before. All of the junk is literally stripped away, and we just enjoy clothes-free living, and in this case, clothes-free working for all of the right reasons. A very happy studio/office environment, and Lisa Monroe adds to that quite a bit. Now, before we get to my interview with Steve/BOPBADGER/ the writer, the author of the blog A Comfort of Naturists, the last couple of episodes on 29 and 30, we handed over half the show each week to Tim Chismar, who had conducted an interview with Nikki Hoffman. We would like your feedback on that. Not so much about Tim or Nikki. They're both terrific, and we know that, but is that something we should look at doing also down the road? Now, Tim asked for the time, so we gave it to him. Should we seek other people out and let them conduct interviews on this show? Or would you rather we just did our thing? We are looking for feedback, in other words, so you can do that a number of ways. We've already been through them. Our email address, Twitter, Spotify, the website. Just let us know what you are thinking. Well, you are listening to Naked, Nudist, and Naturist, episode 31 today. We thank you for being with us. 31st week, 31st episode. We deliver right on time, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time every Saturday morning. And now let's get to part one of my interview with Steve from New Zealand, also goes by the name BOPBADGER. And it's all about naturism, nudism, and his blog, A Comfort of Naturist. Part one of my interview with Steve. So let's go down, way down to New Zealand. At least it's way down from where we are up in the United States. Headed to New Zealand to talk to a gentleman all about naturism and nudism. He runs his own blog on Substack called A Comfort of Naturists. And we want to bring him to the show this morning. So from New Zealand, let's welcome Steve. Good morning, Steve. How are you today?
Good morning, Frank. Very well, thank you.
All right. Good to have you with us. We're both living the clothes-free life for all the right reasons. What could get better, right?
Indeed.
All
Nothing
right.
better.
You got that. So, what's the naturism scene like in New Zealand? Can you pretty much be nude anywhere? Can you walk down the street? Can you work in your yard? What's going on over there?
Well, no, you can't walk down the street particularly, but nudism is not illegal in New Zealand. Simply being naked in public is not an offence. You can be naked in your yard. You're not going to get arrested. If your neighbour sees you, there are beaches, access points. I mean, basically, there are no designated naturist beaches in New Zealand because it's not illegal to be naked. So
Wow. Okay.
every beach is um,
Yeah.
whoever arrives first sets the dress code. Um, I guess you might not take off your clothes in a city beach or something like that, but most of the areas in New Zealand, there are areas sparsely populated where no one's going to know, no one's going to care.
Okay. Now, can you be, for example, on a beach in New Zealand, you could have textiled people as well as nude people side by side or using the same beach at the same time?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Our local beach here in Tauranga, there's a, I suppose, designated area which has traditionally been used by naturists.
Okay.
And yeah, textiles walk up and down, walking the dog,
Wow.
jogging, whatever.
Oh, that's great.
Some will avert their eyes and tut loudly. Others will just smile and wave and ask you if you're having a nice day and walk on.
Yeah.
That's how it should be.
That's right. Well, some years ago, I played, as I tell people, 258 years ago when I was in college. I played rugby, and it wasn't a varsity sport; it was a club sport. We just got together to blow steam off, and after being in class all day and doing research, let's just go no pads, no rules, try to kill each other on the field, and that's basically what rugby is half the time. But we also always played one game a year nude. The last game of the year was early on a Saturday morning. We played nude, but that got my attention when I found out they actually play nude rugby in New Zealand. I've seen some games from that. I don't know if they do it all the time or one game a year, but do you know anything about that?
I believe it started as a university event in Dunedin down the bottom of the South Island, um, and they will have a nude rugby game prior to a either a national or an international test match.
Okay, okay,
So yeah, off I've seen footage where it's mixed players, so male and female playing,
yeah.
and it seems to be reasonably well regarded and well observed, and it's a tradition. So yes, no shame involved.
No, and when you see the pictures from it, the still shots, everybody in the crowd is laughing or smiling. Nobody's looking away. Nobody's showing disgust. It's just, clothes free again for all the right reasons. Well, let's talk about your blog. We're talking to Steve from New Zealand. He writes a blog mostly on naturism, sometimes has some other things in there. BOP Badger is his name there. The blog is called A Comfort of Naturists, and it says thoughts on nudity, naturism, and society's difficulty in accepting people with a clothing optional philosophy. Yeah, no kidding. And Steve, let's get into your blog a little bit. I want to start with this post you put up on July 20th of this year, 2023. The naturist philosophy is not just about being naked. Amen and hallelujah to that. Maybe explain to us, though, what you mean by that.
Um, I, when I first started the blog, I sort of intended it more to be read by non-naturists, I guess, as a way of understanding where we're coming from and demystifying naturism to Joe Public. And so it's written, I guess, with that idea of trying to just normalize naturism and explain to people that, we're not deviants, we're not all engaged in orgies or sexual activity, that it's just regular people doing regular stuff but without clothes on, just from a comfort point of view. The topics sort of drift a bit and meander through different thoughts and things like that. But that idea that it's not just about getting naked. There's a philosophy behind it that is more about respect for yourself respect for your environment, and just that I guess self belief and self value.
Yeah, and I've seen this happen 100% of the time. Every time I've been in a naturist situation, whether at home, at a club, on the beach, it's happy and friendly. People are just having a good time, enjoying the company of each other as well as enjoying themselves. I don't always see that on a textile beach or a textile club or in society. You go grocery shopping, people get mad at you if you're in their way when they're trying to get a box of cereal. And I think if we had a naturist grocery stores, how I wish we did, I don't think people would get mad at you like, oh, excuse me, sir, excuse me, ma'am, can I just get a box of cereal there? Have a good day. Why is that, do you think? Why are people just so much more, friendlier and happier and nicer to everybody when they're involved with naturism?
Oh, that's a big ask. I think if I knew that, there'd be world peace. It's interesting. I think naturists tend to see people for the person rather than the image that's projected. We tend to accept people as individuals, and I think we're just more tolerant. Maybe, I don't know. I can only speak from my experience. I'm sure there'll be people out there who'll say that naturists are intolerant. We're probably intolerant of certain types of behavior within our community. But when it comes to being part of a civil community, I think naturists just tend to be nice people.
Yeah, I wonder if a lot of it is okay. Let's say you and I show up at an event together, we have clothes on, but I have a little nicer suit than you have on. I have a more expensive suit, a little sharper, a little crisper. My shoes look a little better. Immediately, the thought might come to me, well, I guess I've outdone Steve here. I'm a little sharper today. And you might be thinking, well, shoot, I should have dressed up better because Frank looks better than I do today. That's not good. But in naturism, we have none of that. Literally, all of it's been stripped away. So forget the societal stuff that we put on to fake or cover up who we are or what we are. When you're in naturism, you're just who you are. So we get right to the core and the soul of the individual. At least that's my belief. Do you see it that way as well?
Absolutely. Someone once said to me that you're more likely to remember the color of someone's
Yeah.
eyes at a naturist venue than you are in a textile world,
Yeah.
because you're actually paying attention to the
Yeah.
individual um, rather than the image that they're presenting. That's right. I just think that the idea that people dress to impress, or they dress to create an image, is something that I think permeates society. I think social media and the pressures to be someone and to project a certain
Mhm.
image are rife throughout society, and I think naturists just peel that back to the core individual. You're talking to a person, you're engaging with that person, you're interested in what they have to say. I mean, we've got a naturist park about 20 minutes up the road from us, and everybody you talk to is just genuinely interested in who you are and where you're from and what you're doing, and it's just so easy to strike up a conversation. You go to a bar here, and if you're not the local, they look at you funny, and you've got to fit in, and you've got to be that thing. Where I just think, strip away all that pretense, and you're just dealing with genuine people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how that works. Now, on that same post that we're talking about right now, we're talking to Steve from New Zealand, who writes a blog, and we'll talk about that in more detail. But I want to get back to this particular post. You mentioned a lot of people you've come across, and not naturists. They just figure, okay, you guys go to a club, you get naked, you must be having some kind of wild sex orgies, just nonstop having sex with each other. And of course, let me read this to our listeners today because it's very well written. I wish I would have thought of this myself.
Thank you.
But you said, yeah, nobody assumes that members of other social clubs are overly intimate or engage in sexual activity during their regular meetings. And it amuses me that people think that naturists are. When someone tells us they're a member of the local bridge club, we don't immediately assume that there's a bit of sexual activity going on at these meetings. But that's very true. So why do people assume that we're having sex just because we're in a club with no clothes on? They just equate the two together. Is that how it works?
I think most of society is conditioned to equate nudity with sex.
Yeah.
And I blame, the media, the way it's presented. You look at any television program or anything like that. If there's a hint of nudity, then there's an over exaggerated, feigned offence, or they shield their eyes, or they look away, or whatever, and it enhances that idea that nudity is something to be shied away from, or suppressed, or that it's not natural, or it's not normal.
Yeah.
And I think it amazes me that cultures that have such a, I don't want to say backward, but such a a sort of a repressed attitude towards nudity. um I just Yet they produce pornography and sexualized music videos and sexualized social media and everything, and there seems to be a real disconnect between just non-sexual nudity and that idea that because someone's naked there must be an intent to be sexual.
Yeah. Now, you and I are of roughly the same age. I tell people I'm 27. So, Steve, do me a favor. You go with 27 as well.
Yeah, with a few years experience, but yes.
That's right. It's our stories, and we're sticking to them. But we came. We're from a time where, you went to school, you had to go to gym class, and if you didn't get naked and showered, you got your grade marked down. You got yelled at by the teacher, and get in there and get showered before you go to the next class. And apparently, that's basically gone away now in schools. Nobody showers at all. You go to gym class, you get extra sweaty, you put your regular clothes back on, you go to class. How did we come from where you and I came from to this nonsense?
I think there is a overprotection of society towards children and trying to protect children.
Mm.
And it's a really awkward thing because it gets a very visceral reaction from people. And I see that with the likes of the Pride march in Toronto recently, where there were some naked people taking part in the Pride march, and the offence, or the mock offence, or the feigned offence that was there. Oh my God, think of the children. Well, actually, kids don't care. They love being naked. You look at a toddler on a beach; they're happy running around with nothing on. It's adults projecting their fears onto children.
Mm.
And they think, oh my God, there's a naked person, therefore, I must protect this child. Well, you know, research says that most child abuse happens within the family or a close family friend. It's not some guy at the beach
Yeah.
who's, lying on a towel with nothing on.
Yeah. No, that's very true. And you did explain in one of your blog posts, how much of this has gone on in the church, at least what's been reported. I suspect there's more that's gone on we still haven't found out about. And actually, we interviewed an attorney for another show that we do here, and he was part of that whole thing at the beginning when he found sexual abuse in the church. And he ended up suing people, and people went to prison basically for life because of it. Yet, for a long time, and maybe even still, people drop their kids off at church and they assume all will be well. But there is a big difference between, as I like to say, Christianity and religion. Christianity came from God, religion came from human beings. And so sometimes that goes amiss, but you're right. Most of the abuse comes from a family member or somebody the family knows, like you said, a trusted friend, a next door neighbor, somebody who comes over every once in a while, not from random people at nudist clubs or naturist beaches, right?
Yeah, I think also the naturist community tends to look out for people. You tend to
Oh, yeah.
be aware of people who might be there with ill intent, and you'll call out behaviour.
Mm.
I know at the club up the road from us, there's never been any sort of suggestion of ill behaviour towards anyone let alone children, although there aren't many children there, but they do go there occasionally. But I think, if anything were to happen, the community itself would just react very quickly, and that person would be asked to leave or reported to the authorities or whatever, because I think we are overly aware that that is a criticism leveled against us as a community, and very, very conscious of not letting that become something that society can hold against us.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen the same thing too. People watch out for each other, they take care of each other, and you're right. Any unusual behavior, people where I've been, it's been addressed right away, and then it usually stops. But if not, people are escorted out. So it is a pretty safe place. Now, on one of your blog posts, this was July 27 of 2023, called "Throw in the Towel." But before we get to the actual towel part, you said you've slept naked since you were 12 years old, but didn't identify as a nudist slash naturist till 2011. Tell us how you decided at age 12, okay, I'm Steve, I'm going to bed, the clothes are coming off. Was this announced to your family or your parents ever aware? Is it something you did by yourself? But just take us through that whole thing.
Well, it wasn't really discussed. I was never comfortable in pajamas or t-shirts or nightwear. It would ride up around my neck or twist around, and I wasn't a particularly still sleeper. I'd toss and turn a bit, and the clothing just wasn't comfortable.
Mm.
And so, you take it off and kick it out and just leave it. And then, it was I don't think I wasn't discussed with my parents, but I guess they realized I wasn't wearing pajamas and stopped buying them for me. It's, just one of those things that just, yeah, no, he's not going to wear them, so we won't bother buying them. We won't waste any money. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, right from that sort of 12 years old, I've slept naked, and I've never really, even if it's cold, you can warm the bed up, but yeah, I
Yeah.
just am not comfortable with bedding with sleepwear at all.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most useless pieces of clothing ever invented.
Yeah. Well, if reading through history, and for whatever reason, it's not publicized a lot, but there was a time where basically everybody was naked. That's how people existed. Now we're going back thousands of years. And even after clothing came in, mostly as protection against weather or when it got really cold, as the world began to expand, people wore robes. And that's all. As I like to tell people, they didn't have a Target or a department store to go and buy, blue jeans and t shirts and sweatshirts with their favorite team's logo on it. They didn't have stores, but they made robes. And that's it. And a lot of times in the Bible, they will say in the Old Testament, the prophet, whatever his name is, showed up, took his robe off, and began to preach, which means he was preaching with no clothes on. Now, this is in the Word of God. A lot of people don't know that. Is there any way we can start spreading the word that this is normal? It's the way it used to be until human beings got involved and said, I think we need to change it. What can we do to get that word out there?
I don't know. I think, to be honest, we can just live our own lives, and hopefully the example, is demonstrated to other people, and other people see it and accept it. You can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink.
That's true.
If people have got a mindset, they're not going to change if someone stands up and tells them. They've got to discover that for themselves.
Yeah.
The common sense thing, the clothing industry is damaging the environment. The fast fashion, the $5 t-shirts that are made in India, and the amount of fresh water that's used to make a pair of blue jeans, it's phenomenal. And the used clothing that gets exported to Africa or some South American countries and just fills up the landfill, because Western society wants the latest fashion. We want the next thing. We want the season that's in next, and we pay no heed to the environment at our own peril. And clothing, and not only the production, but the waste. It's hugely environmentally damaging.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a need for clothing in the colder climates, and if I'm cold, I'll put some clothes on. I'm not I'm a naturist. I'm not stupid. Um,
That's true.
but it's, for a lot of the time, I'm lucky enough to live in a temperate climate where, I don't need clothing. I don't need it for protection from the weather. So, what's the point? I'm not particularly fashion conscious. I wouldn't call myself leading edge of fashion. I don't set the trends, shall we say, but it's less important to me than it is to other people, clothing.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. So you started sleeping naked at age 12, and I'm guessing since 12 through this last night, you've never slept with clothes on again.
Yeah, yeah, I've slept naked. The only time is if I'm in a hospital or something like that, I'll have a gown or what have you,
Oh, sure, yeah,
overnight stay. But
yeah.
yeah, no, I tend not to.
Do you remember what your first naturism activity was, a social naturism, where you got together with at least one other person and maybe more and just celebrated the clothes free life?
I went to my ex-wife and I, when our children were quite young, we went to an open day at a naturist park in Wellington, and sort of spent the day just to have a look, see what it was like. We both enjoyed it. The kids weren't that keen; they weren't bothered, but they weren't that particularly bothered. So we were never really pushed it. We didn't want to force them into anything that they weren't comfortable with, and so we just sort of left it. And it wasn't until, oh, as I say, after the kids had grown up and probably left home, that I really made the decision to live, and identify as a naturist.
Yeah, that was my next question. When did you, because it says 2011 in your blog, that's when you, as you put it, identified as a naturist. And that's why, because that's when your kids moved out and you had more freedom to move around?
Pretty much, yeah. I can remember saying to my ex-wife at the time, I said, "Oh, I just can't be bothered with clothes anymore. I'm gonna be a naturist." It wasn't met with any shock or disbelief. It was like, "All right, okay, cool." She wasn't as committed to the lifestyle as I was, but in the privacy of our own property and our own home, yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's very good. Now, in this particular blog, Throw in the Towel, you addressed, it's universally accepted, I believe, that naturists should carry a towel with them. When they go to sit down, they should sit on the towel. And then you drew a fairly accurate parallel. I had never thought of this consciously myself, but human beings are the only ones who sit on towels when naked. No animal in nature, including your dog or cat, has to sit on a towel every time they sit down. And as far as we know, no one's died from some dreadful disease because they sat on your couch without a towel. So, how do you come down on that? Should naturists have a towel? Is it just one of those things we do to prevent attacks, or what?
I just think it's courtesy.
Yeah,
It's like taking your shoes off when you visit someone's house. It's a
yeah,
I don't know. I just think it's a courtesy thing. Some people are icky about it, and I think having a towel and using a towel counters any argument that people might have against us as a lifestyle and a philosophy. I'm not 100% sure. Someone might be able to prove to me that there is a health issue, in which case, absolutely, I'll sit on a towel. But for
yeah.
me, the towel is actually more about comfort. I don't particularly want to sit on a cold chair,
Right.
or a rough bench, or depending on where we are. So it's just an easy habit to get into. And yeah, I have some small towels that I have for seats around the place that specifically for sitting on.
Yeah. No, I think it is good for etiquette, definitely, but it prevents non-naturists from saying, look at those fools sitting all over the place. And it's one less thing we have to worry about, right?
Yep, it's a small price to pay.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And there you go, part one of my interview with the terrific Steve / BOPBADGER / author of the website Blog on Naturism, A Comfort of Naturists. We'll get to part two of my interview with Steve on next week's show. And when you get a moment, please respond to the questions I asked earlier in the episode. We are out here working for you, bringing you the joys of the clothes-free life. Thank you very much for being with us today on Naked, Nudist, and Naturist, episode 31 today. We give you a brand new show every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Continue to join us. Check us out on our website, nakednudistandnaturist.com, Spotify, Google, Amazon/Audible, Apple Podcasts, and also on Twitter. You can write us anywhere, anytime, any place. And we thank you for being with us today. Plan to join us for every single one of our shows here and have your clothes off when you're listening. We have our clothes off when we're broadcasting, enjoying the naturist life.
We celebrate clothes-free living for all. Remember to enjoy being naked and join us again for Naked Nudists and Naturists.
We drop a brand new show every Saturday morning, so come back and join us. Have your clothes off when you do for Naked Nudists and Naturists. Have a great clothes-free day.